Anyway, hello guys and gals. Anyway, he's back. He's back 5 times once again, and welcome to part 5 of my BBC Christmas Ident history video. And how is everybody going? Anyway, I'm now here for part 5 today, and in this video, I'm here to bring you all the Christmas idents and the history of them from 2000, from the early 2000s up until 2017, and just like the first part, this is going to be mainly a picture slideshow, but I will have a bit of video footage which I'll put in as well. Anyway, and also television branding by this time, by probably maybe after 2001, probably it starts to go in this direction, if you like. It's increasingly, I would say, but it goes under the charge of people who know about your demographics, different people, targeting, branding, and for about art. Who doesn't really know that much about art, but there's still some very, very good Christmas idents in recent times as well, but still, which are still very good, and still certainly festive, I would say. So, yeah, but anyway, I hope you all, I hope you all enjoy this video. We were in 2000 last times, and then I'm now going to go into 2001, and it was also the final go-around for the 1997 corporate look, and also the last hurrah on BBC One for the balloon, and also the last dance for the globe idents, which had been used in one form or another since 1963. And I'm about to show you a few photos of the ident. It was in set to the music of, I'll just describe it. Well, anyway, sort of like that. Well, anyway, here they are. Enjoy. Peace. Anyway, here we go. This Christmas look was created by Ident Animations, and they were responsible for creating Wallace and Gromit. It has the 3 different toys attached to balloons flying around in a very, very cosy lounge. One of them's a freewheel van, a dinosaur, and a toy dog. And they are meant to represent 3 of the programmes which were on at that Christmas: the Lost World, the Return of Only Fools and Horses, and also the dog was for Toy Story. Well, anyway, I would say this is one of the cosier and also, again, one of the cuter Christmas idents what the BBC have used on BBC One for 2001, and it's absolutely very, very cosy, magical, and absolutely heartwarming and lovely indeed. Meanwhile, over on BBC Two, just over a month before Christmas, in November, the classic 1990s ident package, which had been around for a little over a decade in one form or another, was scrapped. Well, the logo, the bladed 2, would still be the same. Now, the 2, as you can see from these pictures, is now a robot who lives in a very big, infinite, everlasting yellow void. Well, anyway, these idents are very, very likeable, I must say, as you can see in these pictures, but the format is just could be a tint a bit restrictive though. Well, anyway, here coming up, here is the first Christmas ident under that new format, as you can see in these pictures. Here we go, the Robot 2 creates an angel almost seemingly by magic, as you can see here in its hands, and also seemingly creates this very big, absolutely magical tree. It almost looks like if it's hand-drawn, which is nice. And also, meanwhile, the following year, on March the 29th, BBC One followed BBC Two with their new ident package, which started off with them dropping the globe on the 29th of March, for the first time since around 1960, with the drop-in of the Batwings ident, and replacing the balloon and the globe with one of the most controversial ident sets in British television history, the Rhythm and Movement ident. Well, anyway, looking at this video, they're quite pleasant enough and also good, but these idents are a bit weak. In these idents. Well, anyway, some of these have also mood and feels in some of the idents as well. The concept about this ident is the concept of dance, and with all these idents, they go along to the music of da 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 da, and so on and so forth. Well, anyway. The intriguing question is, what would they do at Christmas? Well, here you go. With the Dancers idents, this also kicked off a trend of having the Christmas idents based around a kiddywink theme, and for 2002 it had various children dressed up in snowflakes and running round, basically in a circle in a wintry landscape. And also there was a variation made for the news in which, from when I looked at it, there was slowed down to walking pace. Also, meanwhile, on BBC Two, this is a first for 2002, as 2001 Christmas ident, which you saw in one of the photos, it was brought back for a second rerun. And this time it ran concurrently, I would say, with a new Christmas ident, what they made for 2002. It featured the two robots making a snow tube. But, all I could say on the other hand, for Christmas ident wise, it's a bit of a premonition, I would say, of things to come. Well, mainly for BBC Two, mainly. Well, anyway, here's the ident. Also, the snow too, the only thing I can say about this ident, it is very, very nice and very, very lovely indeed, as I've said many times. Well, anyway, moving on to 2003. Now, for 2003, and for BBC One. Anyway, BBC One for 2003 has got exactly the same Christmas ident as last year, and also this provoked such a bit of a backlash, and I'll explain why later on. And also, it's a good Christmas ident, but it was a good one in 2002. BBC Two, the idents for Christmas 2001 and 2 were back into rotation again, along with this nice kinetic ice block looking thing on here, and also the restrictions to the format, as we'll be starting to show by this point. In 2004, BBC One has learnt its lesson, acknowledging that the Christmas ident was still really a thing that people cared about. For the second time running, they entered a competition on programme Blue Peter to create a special kiddywink designed Christmas ident. This photo is of the winner of that competition. This drawing on what you can see on the photo is her idea. And now we're going to see how the ident in photo form turned out. I love those Jingle bells, those holiday Jingle bells, those happy Jingle. A very, very good and very, very nice ident with a bunch of children dressed up as hollies and berries and bouncing around in a icy North Pole on Christmas pudding space hoppers, and yep, even the kiddywinks know how to do the Christmas idents, so if you wanted to, leave it to the kids. Well, anyway, and while BBC One recaptured the Yuletide tune in 2004, while BBC One recaptured the yearly Yuletide Christmas tune in 2004, BBC Two, on the other hand, became a bit of a Scrooge about it and forgot about it completely, because they failed to commission, for the very first time, a new Christmas ident at all and they just showed the idents for the last 3 Christmases in rotation again, basically. Anyway, now we're going to move on to 2005, and in this Christmas ident, the BBC still kept faith with the Kiddywink theme, and if you look at this ident, it's really Charlie and the Chocolate Factory based, or has been compared to it. And also, still, right at the same time, I'll say it's absolutely lovely as well, the ident. Anyway, here it is. Suppose what those children are holding are either everlasting gobstoppers, or I think they're supposed to be baubles, actually, what they're carrying round the tree. Yeah, and also that tree in the middle, it had children dressed up as Oompa Loompas, walking around the tree with the baubles, or in the... and yep. Anyway, mostly a very lovely ident, or not as the Christmas trees, just a big green triangle with some snowy frisbees around it. I'm joking. Well, anyway, this is a very lovely and nice Christmas ident, actually. So, anyway, moving on to BBC Two, they got rid of the Christmas idents, what they've been using in rotation, and they instead gave us this. Lovely, glittery artifact, which is nice. And also, plus as well, they'll reuse this in 2006, which will make it, in these words, I would say, very low priorities when compared to BBC One, I'll say. Come 2006, and it was all changed again on BBC One, as the dancers had their last samba, and they got replaced by... guess what? Very similar, but on this occasion, I would say, a far stronger and vibrant set of idents. Well, anyway, and also, these ones had a nod to the BBC One globe idents, which were used on the channel in various forms, and also they had an actual symbol to them, which was circles, which were being formed right in the middle of the screen. And also, when I was younger, I quite liked the circles idents. I found them quite good, actually, I must say, as well. Well, anyway, Christmas 2006, BBC One had this very nice ident. BBC One in 2006, they have this very lovely Christmas ident of a community coming together, to build a very big, colossal, giant snowball. And so going about to the inch of a 20'5" meatball, which looks good enough to eat. Very lovely indeed. You get you warm into the cockles of dreaming for that white snowy Christmas, eh? Moving on. 2007 will come next after 2006, unless you're counting down. And BBC One for Christmas 2007 gave us the theme of ice skating penguins. Yep, everybody loves penguins. And very everyone who doesn't love penguins was like, bleh. Well, anyway, this is a very lovely Christmassy ident, and feels very wintry as well. And I could say very lovely, well made. And also, this was such a very popular ident that they brought back the ident on a wintry basis, but a version was made without the Christmas tree in the middle. Now let's see what BBC Two's got in store. Ooh, yep. In early 2007, in February, BBC Two regenerated again, and with some new idents early in 2007, and the theme was called Windows on the World. Or, if you want to put it this way, very big bladed two-shaped holes in many things. Anyway, there. Oh, I could say very good idents as well. And so, the intriguing question of the day is, what would they do at Christmas? Well, and the last thing I should mention is that the Window on the World idents, they would use this for around 7 years, up until 2014, when they brought back the classic 1990s Bladed 2 Idents, initially for the channel's 50th anniversary, but then they brought it back on a more permanent basis once that anniversary conclusion was over. Oh, yep. 2007 for BBC Two brought this very, very lovely animated paper mache early 1990s style BBC Two avant-gardeners, and which certainly feels very, very festive and absolutely very, very lovely and absolutely well made. So I would say well done BBC Two for the ident. But on the other hand, they used it also throughout 2008, 9 and 10 as well, and which would mean this, as I take you in vision briefly once again. Before I mention, there are two variations of the ident, one with the reindeer and then the other with the fairy, which you just saw just moments ago. So yeah. Anyway, just before I move on, I would like to quickly point out that for Christmas 2008, 9 and 10, BBC Two still used that same ident as well. And also, remember how I said television presentation came under the influence of people, came under the charge of people who know about marketing, branding and demographics? I think one person, probably said many, many years ago, which I've heard off a similar video, said, Christmas is a bigger moment in the year for the BBC One brand, and the set of idents we created in Christmas 2007 for BBC Two fit in with our brand position. Well, anyway, to put it this way, they're probably just, their only concern with that is their calculations of what would what would manipulate the viewers the best, or using it as a dog whistle once again for the viewers, than with what people would actually want to see. And also, people would want to have fresh new Christmas idents every year, so the festive season seems extremely a bit more magical and also not making a new one would make Christmas feel less special as well. So, anyway, back to the idents, and for Christmas 2000, and now we move on to 2008. Well, anyway, BBC One's more important in these recent years in terms of Christmas presentation than BBC Two. And well, anyway, 2008 is going to start the return. It's going to have the return of Wallace and Gromit, who as the channel's 2008 Christmas look, in promotion as well of their brand new BBC short for 12 years. Over 12 years, actually. And it was one of the biggest programmes on Christmas Day that year, in 2008. So, yeah, but anyway, back to the idents. Peace. And animations for the Christmas 2008 BBC One look have come back into the fold, but this very, very lovely piece of stop motion animation with Wallace being pushed up a hill on a sledge by Gromit, and then eventually falling off this hill and you're into a loopy snowy circle, you're sledging until eventually, as you can see on here, eventually tripping off, flying into the air, tripping into the snow, whilst Gromit takes over the sledge. Well, and it is actually very, very lovely, well made, and I would say very, very fabulous. And so, I would say well done BBC One. Well, 2008 ident is fandabidosi. Now moving on to Christmas 2009, and 2009 brought forth the then Doctor Who David Tennant, and in the Christmas ident, and he was and one of the big programmes on BBC One for Christmas that year was the David Tennant's last ever two-part Doctor Who episode, The End of Time. And the Christmas ident that year features David Tennant with his TARDIS stuck in the snow, and then uses the reindeer to pull the TARDIS along and rides around similar to the vein of Santa Claus, in a very excitable fan-davidosi way, right? Anyway, it is a very, very lovely fabulous and magical Christmas ident, and plus as well, they did make a version for the news, but without David Tennant or any mention of Doctor Who in the logo. But anyway, on the other hand, I'll say overall very, very lovely and excellent and magical ident. Very indeed. Fandabidozy. But hey! I will say once again, very, very magical ident with the Doctor, or otherwise known as David Tennant, using the TARDIS as a sleigh pulled by the reindeer. And also, overall, it's a very, very magical and very, very lovely ident. So, yeah, well anyway, now, time to move on now. Now, into the current decade now, the 2010s, and 2010 had this in a wintry cul-de-sac, which you'll see in a moment, had various few different things happening. Man dressed in a penguin costume, a man cleaning his car of the snow, and a family arriving for Christmas, and once you get to the sky, this nice, very lovely Christmas tree lights motif, which is very, very lovely indeed. Hey, alright guys and girls, now that is the end of part 5 of this video, because I've decided to make a part 6, and in part 6, yep, we've got a touch of sparkle, we have very festive wrapping paper, a magical forest of Christmas, an animated sprout, and also family and friends, Christmassy and people idents, and all that to come. Or, to put it this way, in part 6, I'm going to be covering the Christmas presentation on the BBC's channels from 6 years ago up until this year, the present day, and also as well, instead of making a new Radio Times video, I'm also going to show you the last year's Radio Times issue, what it is, or what it was last year, and also what this year's issue is. So yep, and now, as of this video, we are now into the early hours of Christmas Eve, or December the 23rd. So yep, but anyway, guys and gals, until part 6, thank you very much for watching. Don't forget to subscribe, like, comment, rate, and everything else. And thank you very much for watching. I'll see you all in part 6. Peace and sign off.